Listen, I know there's a whole ass mess behind me, but I want to recount a trip that I took to Iowa about 2 weeks ago because I want to remember it. So I'm going to share a lot of the clips that I also took while I was out there. Day one was my flight, obviously. I do not live in Iowa, so I actually flew from Salt Lake to Minneapolis. And guess what also happens to be in Minneapolis? The Mall of America. You are correct, the biggest mall in America. So, had to hit it. I made a list of everything I could remember that we did there. I don't think it's all inclusive. The first thing we did was go to the Lego store. I've never been to an actual like Lego store, so that was really fun and interesting. We went to Bubba Gump's Shrimp Company to eat, and that was lovely. We had this whole fun thing going on where if you bought a drink, you could also get the cup. And actually, I thought that they were just going to give us the cups we had used, but they gave us a receipt, and then we went to the gift store and they gave us brand new ones. So I got a cup that's also a shaker. And I got some good use out of this while I was in Iowa, let me tell you. I guess in really no particular order, we tried to go to the Swarovski store because I am a magpie. I love shiny things. I just wanted to go just stare at all of the beautiful crystals. But they were closed. And the front of the store said open summer 2024. And I was like, it is summer 2024. What is happening? We went to the Crocs store. I've never been to a Crocs store either. That was really fun. We went to Build-A-Bear. I've never made a Build-A-Bear, so this was exciting. I picked Toothless. And my boyfriend named him. Guess what his name is? Teethless.
I love you, sweetheart.
I had my very first Cinnabon cinnamon roll. Never had one of those before. And we went to the M&M store wherein I got this super cute set of PJs. And I also got one of their like M&M shaped pillows. It has like a hole through the middle of it and a blanket inside of it. And the boyfriend got the matching shorts for men. I believe that is everything that we did in the Mall of America. And then afterwards, we had talked about doing this, but we ended up exchanging promise rings. This was the first ring that he purchased, and it is very beautiful, but he wasn't overly satisfied with it, so he went ahead and bought a second one. And then we started the 4-hour trek back to Iowa. On the way back, we actually stopped at Minnesota's largest candy store, which I believe was called John's Apple Orchard or John's Apple Store. It was large. It was like a huge, massive, long barn that was just filled with candy. So much candy. This was my first time going to Iowa, and my boyfriend is from there. He lives there. And he had told me before that there is just so many cornfields. Iowa is just cornfields. And I really didn't believe him until we were driving through Iowa, and I was like, wow, it literally is all cornfields. We also exchanged some stories about windmills because I used to have a friend who, she was trying to be smart, and this was a friend who would like sometimes try to make me feel dumb, so this experience was just very validating. She was like really my only friend, so she became a very close friend, and so anytime I could take a friend with me on any type of anything, I would always bring her. So we're on this family road trip, her and I are in the back seat, and we're passing these big windmills, and she goes, "Those are such a waste of power. I can't believe that farmers or whoever owns those things just pays to keep those windmills going, because like that is just, that's so much electricity that it must take to power those things. I mean, they're huge." And I started laughing because I thought it was a joke, and she was so dead serious. And then he told me a story about a friend of his who thought that all of the energy that those windmills produce is sent to Chicago. Like all across the country, probably across the entire world, all of the energy produced by these windmills is all sent to Chicago. Only Chicago can use the energy. I'm not a big gambler, but I got to do lottery scratchers for the first time, and that was pretty fun. We ended up just spending a lot of time together, just hanging out, watching TV, playing Lego Star Wars. But I did eat a lot of really good food. I was introduced to Blue Mountain State and potato olays from Taco John's. I love potatoes, so that was a life changer for me. We went to a couple of local restaurants throughout the time that I was there, such as a place called Carrie's Diner, another place called Ghost House. We went to the Omaha Zoo. That was a whole lot of fun. My favorite thing was the butterflies. Just that entire greenhouse just felt magical. The entire trip felt pretty magical, but that especially. On the way back from the Omaha Zoo, I happened to see a small crystal shop that I pointed out, and so my boyfriend literally turned his car around and we went back to it, and I ended up getting this crystal necklace, this crystal cluster, and this piece of raw ruby. I met his parents. We had an impromptu meeting when his mom got called out of town, and then a planned meeting that his mom could not attend, and then we met again when you'll find out later. We chilled for a couple more days, played some Lego Star Wars, started watching some of Reacher. If you've watched Blue Mountain State and you've watched Reacher, I think you can understand why. Yeah. Side note, Casey's gas stations, your pizza has no right to be that good. I saw fireflies for the first time in my life as a 25-and-a-half-ish year old woman, and I scared the absolute pants off of my boyfriend when I saw them because I had myself a little freak out over it. It was a very exciting moment for me. I felt like a little girl again. So I am me, and of course things can't always go perfectly correct. If you hear that sound, there's a cat in a litter box right now being an absolute menace. We're just gonna persevere. So I was planning on being in Iowa for 6 days. The night before my flight home, an absolutely massive storm rolls through like northwest Iowa and like southeast Minnesota. Like that whole region just gets absolutely, actually flooded. Being so for real, it was scary to think about the people that were living in those towns that were actually completely underwater. Like, I feel like I hear about people getting like an inch or two of water in their basement, and yes, technically that's flooded, but like this is water up to like the roof of people's houses type of flooded. So, because of all of the road closures and other delays, I could not make my flight because we had to drive through the worst of it. We would have had to drive through the worst of it to get to the airport that my flight was at. So I had to book a much more expensive flight for the next day from an airport that was in the other direction so that we could actually make it there.
Oh, get the yak out. I'll be fine, brother.
But that also meant I had another night. So we ended up buying some fireworks and lighting them off, and it was a wonderful ending. Really went out with a bang. It was a lot of fun. But also because of the flooding, my boyfriend's mom had to come back from her work trip because her house was one of the ones that was almost halfway underwater. We went to go check on them, and when we showed up, the water was about waist height in the basement. So, got to meet his mom again, at least. Terrible circumstances, though. Thankfully, they have insurance, so their house is covered. But still sucks. Awful. Horrible. And then the next day, I got up to head on my flight back to Salt Lake. On our way out to the airport, though, we did stop at this diner in Ankeny. It's actually the Ankeny Diner. And I tried Green River soda for the first time. It was pretty interesting. I quite enjoyed it. And I think the last thing that I will immortalize on here, I did decide as a part of the content that I wanted to make surrounding the trip that I would try out some flight hacks. And one of the things that I did, something that my boyfriend actually told me to try, was asking the pilot for a trading card. I had never heard of that before. Everyone that I asked had never heard of that before. Granted, I wasn't asking pilots, so I had no way of knowing if this was real or not until I got on my flight. Turns out it's real. So I got a card on my flight out because it was one continuous flight, but since my flight back had a connection, and there seemed to be a lot of pilots just on the flights that I was taking, I ended up asking like half a dozen pilots on my way home if I could have a trading card. And I flew out Delta, flew back United, so I knew Delta had them. I wasn't sure about United. Turns out United does have them. And while I was in the Des Moines airport, as I'm talking to one of the pilots, he's telling me that he wishes he could give me a Boeing 787 card because that's the plane that I was going to be on. But unfortunately, he was out. He didn't know where to find more except for in the Denver airport, which was where I was going. He said that they just had a backstock of them. I got to the Denver airport and I start asking pilots for trading cards again. And the first pilot I walk up to, I ask him for a trading card and he says, no, that's a Delta thing. United doesn't do that. If they do, it's a new thing because I haven't heard of it. And I was like, well, actually, by the way, the pilot I talked to was very much an older gentleman. And the pilot I was talking to this time was, I'm so sorry, he seemed like a brown noser, very much nerdy type, like teacher's pet in a bad way, because the way that he was saying that, well, it must be a new thing because I don't know about it. So I politely let him know that the last airport that I was in, they told me that Denver has a backstock of the Boeing 787 planes, of United cards. And he basically told me that I didn't know what I was talking about, and that that pilot probably had never been to the Denver airport, and it was just a crock of bull, basically. He's so dead set on United doesn't do trading cards. I turn around, I see another pilot like 10 feet away, walk up to this other pilot. Hi, so sorry to bug you. May I please have a trading card? He pulls out like 3 United cards and a Delta card and gives them to me. I was half tempted to hold up one of the United cards and turn around to the original pilot that I was talking to in the Denver airport and just go. First thing, I'm so sorry to United that I have to say this. The Delta cards are way nicer. I have a recording of the 787 Delta card, but I don't have it with me because I gave it to my boyfriend. Here's the United one. They're still cool. I'm still happy to have them. But also, this is real different from this. I got a couple of United cards, okay? I got four of them right here. Actually, I have a 5th one that's signed by one of the pilots, but it's a double up of this 737. But they're sick, and I'm happy to have them, as I said. Well, I hope that maybe someone enjoyed hearing about my trip to Iowa, because I certainly enjoyed going. That's all from me, folks. Stay safe, be kind to others. Bye-bye.